My Octopus Teacher. I haven't seen it. Give us a rundown.
All right, it's available on Netflix for anyone who wants to watch it right now, and I think any documentary winner is worth seeing. So it gets a recommendation just based on that, just for context. But I always make a goal not only to see all the nominees in every field, but in areas like documentary feature where there's a short list, I try to see the entire short list as well to kind of see where the documentary branch's head is at, because it's the hardest to figure out every year. So out of the 15 films that were shortlisted, I ranked My Octopus Teacher 13th. So not only the worst among the nominees, but the worst, one of the worst overall. There are some beautiful moments here. So here's what it's about. A nature documentarian named Craig Foster. He's done a lot of Nat Geo stuff throughout the 80s and 90s. He kind of had a mental breakdown and basically took a sabbatical. Went home to South Africa, went through a lot of therapy, and decided to start diving again in a kelp forest near his home. And he spends the next year documenting this octopus's life, how she adapts, how she escapes from prey, how she hunts, how she lives her life. And he becomes very attached to her in a way that almost suggests therapy. And there is some beautiful camera work here, just absolutely gorgeous underwater photography. I will, for as much as I don't like the film overall, I will never knock that. It's gorgeous. But we've talked before about the observer effect. That goes out the window here. And in a way, it gets kind of disturbing because when you stack it against the other four nominees, you have Collective from Romania, which is about basically a real life spotlight situation where a newspaper exposes massive government corruption in the wake of a nightclub fire that killed dozens of people. You have Crip Camp, which is about the history of a bunch of handicapped people coming together to fight for their rights and eventually get the Americans with Disabilities Act passed. You have The Mole Agent, where an old man goes undercover at a nursing home to try to expose abuse, but ends up giving voice to an ignored sector of the population. You have Time, the wonderful Garrett Bradley directing this combination of home video and current affairs footage of a woman fighting to get her husband out of prison. And then you have a vanity project where a guy comes about 2 steps away from making out with an octopus. I'm sorry. It's comical how just completely irrelevant this film is. It's very much Craig Foster's story. And you know what? Good for him. He worked through his issues. But he talks about trying to be a better father to his son. His son's in the film for 5 minutes. I don't think you succeeded on that one, mate. This was the part that really disturbed me because it's marketed as a film for children. It's given a TV PG rating. Even during the Oscars broadcast, as soon as it won, they cut to commercial and Google had an ad about how this film will inspire kids to learn about octopuses. And I was like, did you guys not see the film? Because Craig makes it very clear early on that the lifespan of a common octopus is just over a year. And we're going to see that octopus die. And it's going to be really disturbing. If your kids cried at Bambi, you are screwed if you sit them down to watch this. It is horrific. I almost cried. It's like, no, I do not want to watch this octopus get eaten by a pajama shark. No. It's like you have scenes where he puts in this Jaws sound-alike music when it's getting pursued and having one of its arms ripped off by a shark. This is not for kids. This is nightmare fuel. What are you doing? And then, yes, when the octopus gives birth, we then get to watch it slowly decay and get picked apart by bottom feeders until a pajama shark just casually scoops it up in his mouth and just swims away chomping on it. What the hell? Your kids will be crying for a month. What are you doing?
So, spoilers for My Octopus Teacher.
I mean, to be fair, he spoils it himself 5 minutes in.
Is this a recommendation for you?
Again, it's a recommendation from the standpoint of this was nominated and it won. You need to see it just to see what the voters were thinking. And I will say flat out, this is one where I very much think the voters got it wrong. And this is not March of the Penguins. This is not heartwarming in any way. I could only have voted for it on the quality of the underwater photography, which again, mind-blowingly gorgeous. I will not take a cent away from that. But again, compared to the insightful, heavy-hitting, and poignant relevant documentaries that it was up against, the fact that it won, just like, it's one of the lesser mistakes of the entire Oscars evening. And oddly enough, there was basically consensus among the award circuit that this was going to win. Like, very rarely is there any agreement on what's the best documentary. Basically every guild and award ceremony that dealt with documentaries, if it was nominated, it won leading up to the Oscars. That's very rare. And so in that respect, yes, I do recommend seeing it. It's an hour and a half of your time off of Netflix, but ignore the rating and do not show it to your kids.